Bradley Wiggins. So far this season, he has never put a wheel out of place. He's now licking his lips. He said, bring it on. I want to start this Tour de France. Well, now he's about to do just that.
And Bradley Wiggins did it well, cautious through the cobbles and the corners, mindful of his #1 priority, which was getting round safely, but still fast enough, especially over the second half of the course, to finish ahead of all of his rivals. Ahead of everyone, in fact, except Fabian Cancellara. Cancellara took the prologue and the first yellow jersey of a Tour de France for the 5th time in his career. The closest overall contender to Wiggins was Denis Menchov, who finished 6 seconds behind him. Cadel Evans conceded 10 seconds over 6 kilometres to his big rival, finishing just behind Chris Froome. Vincenzo Nibali and Ryder Hagedal were another second down. So a good opening day for the pre-race favourite, and it felt good.
I felt fantastic out there. I didn't take any major risks. There was a lot of kind of tricky sections, so I just concentrated on physically, you know, everything we've been training for, really. So yeah, it's just good to get out of the way.
Not good, but not bad. Yeah, of course, I'd rather concede less seconds. You never want to lose time, but inevitably on this course, I think one GC rider ahead of me, but I was sort of half expecting that. Of course, you prefer not to, but that's you know, it's Wiggins is sort of what his background is these short, flat efforts, and yeah, not good, not bad. Happy to get it started, and then for me, the real racing starts tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, meaning today, of course, because Cadel was being interviewed yesterday. Anyway, stage 1, July the 1st, and you've no idea what difference it makes when the date and the stage number are the same. There's enough going on at the Tour without the extra stress of having to remember what day of the week it is. Of course, the riders don't really need to. They're more interested in the lie of the land than the day of the week. And stage 1, as is becoming the norm on the Tour, is a hilly one, with the decisive climb likely to be this one, up through the streets of Serang to the finish line. Now, last year, Belgium's Philippe Gilbert won the first uphill finish with a devastating attack. And although he hasn't really got the same form this year, there's huge pressure on him to repeat the trick in front of his home public. More interesting for us and the race overall, though, might be the performance of his teammate, Cadel Evans. He was second on that opening stage last year, then won the next uphill finish on stage 4, nicking 9 seconds off Bradley Wiggins and several of his other rivals in the process. So today is far from a day off for the yellow jersey contenders, which is exactly the way the race organisers want it, but the main focus has shifted across the colour spectrum.
These are confusing times for Mark Cavendish, which is in itself confusing. The world champion in the shadow of the race favourite, with a gold medal-sized distraction hanging over his tour. It's a tightrope of competing demands played out on the grandest stage.
I've got other goals in the Tour de France as well. It's going to be a long July. And yeah, so I've been working differently. I've been not working on my sprint and working on everything else around getting to the sprint, really.
Those 9 repetitions of Box Hill in the Olympics have prefigured a reworking of his training regime, producing a lighter, perhaps less powerful version of the 20-time stage winner.
He definitely has lost a few kilos. You know, I think you can see he's already climbing a little bit better. He had a good result there in Stir Electra with the uphill finish on the dam there. And, you know, there's no doubt he's going to be here in great shape, and the same for the Olympic Games. It's going to suit him well, I think. He probably hasn't got the team that he's had in the past years, but you know, Cav's a crafty bike rider. That's not going to worry him too much.
He announced already that he will be in top shape in the Tour de France, and that's yeah, what I expect from him. So I don't think that he will be much slower than in the last years.
And the way the course has been designed this year, at least in the opening week, it might just suit Cav Mark II.
I've been training to survive those climbs for the Olympic road race, you know, and whereas my top end speed might have dropped, I should be able to get to some finishes that other, you know, straight line powerful sprinters might not get to, you know, or if they do get to, they'll be in a condition that I'm normally in the same situation. Although my odds of winning bunch sprints are lower, I've got a lot more chances to do, I feel.
We might even see you in a break.
Nah, you know, with the ambitions of the team, what they want to do, I don't think you'll be seeing me in a break, really.
Then there's the team composition. At HTC, he was the focus for all their energies. In the Sky team of 2012, he's not even the most talked about man in the room. Along with Bernie Eisel, he appears to be something of a footnote to a very different story.
The rest of the guys have kind of raced and trained together the whole year. They've been institutionalised now for for at least 8 months, you know, some even longer, you know. For sure that could be, it could be easy to feel isolated, but, you know, they are a great group of guys. Me and Brad go back a long time, you know, we get on really well, and with him being the leader, you know, it's...
You've had the odd moment, haven't you?
Yeah, well, that's like any friends or brothers or something, isn't it, you know?
Well, you're both winners as well, and you're both
well, I think,
kind of alpha male situation.
Well, he's a good, well, you know, he's really, really improved with his leadership qualities, and I think that'd be great for him to try and integrate us into that team, you know.
But even if he wins only a clutch rather than a series of stages, the green jersey is a remote proposition, and still the lustre of Paris and the final stage draws him on.
That finish in Paris, you know, that Champs-Élysées is...
It's your patch?
It's the most beautiful boulevard in the world, in my opinion, you know, and there's nothing quite like raising your arms when you see the Arc de Triomphe in front of you. I can't let Brad stand on his own in Paris on the podium, can I, you know?
Well, it'll be interesting to see whether Mark Cavendish is still up at the front at the end of today's stage. 198 kilometres from Liège to Serang, and it's not just hilly at the finish. There are 5 fourth category climbs along the route. The intermediate sprint comes at 116 kilometres. That'll be the first indication of who's interested in the green jersey. Points for the first 15 men through there. But the big points are available at the end of the short, sharp 3-kilometre climb up to Serang, where Bradley Wiggins and the rest of the overall favourites are going to have to be vigilant too to make sure they're at the front and on the right side of any splits in the field. Now, since last year's race, Mark Cavendish has joined the ranks of riders with babies to kiss at the stage start. Delilah Cavendish making her Tour de France debut in Liège this morning. Also in Liège, the man on whose tally of stage wins Mark Cavendish is slowly closing in. The great Eddie Merckx was there to declare Stage 1 open supermarket style. Now, as well as wearing the green jersey by default, Bradley Wiggins and the rest of the Sky team set off in yellow helmets, denoting the leading team in the race, having had the 3 highest placed riders in the prologue. Tony Martin, who was robbed of a possible win in the prologue by problems with his bike, had more trouble early in this stage. We didn't see him come off, but the results were visible, and he made several trips back to the doctor's car, so a miserable start for the World Time Trial champion. Now, there were 6 men in the inaugural breakaway of this year's Tour, 4 of them Frenchmen: Maxime Bouet of AG2R, Anthony de la Place of Source Jasson, Johan Gien of Europe Car, and Nicolas Adet of Cofidis. In there with them were a Basque, Pablo Urtasun of Euskaltel, and Michael Morkov of Denmark and Saxo Bank. As we join the race, they're heading towards the 116-kilometre mark with a lead of 3 minutes 52.
So as they approach now, inside a kilometre to go for the first sprint of this year's Tour de France, the green jersey being worn on loan after yesterday's prologue by Bradley Wiggins, but of course it's owned by the winner of the stage yesterday, which is Cancellara. But there's 20 points up for grabs at this interim sprint today, and judging by the way that Bouet at the back here, just easing himself to the front, he might be thinking of having a go. There's the man they should worry about, Mikhail Markov, an ex-track rider and an ex-silver medalist in the Olympic Games.
And of course, one of those silver medals at the World Championships was in the Madison, and to get a medal in the Madison, which hails its name from Madison Square Gardens, when they used to do 6-day racing there, you have to be a very sharp sprinter.
Hence the reason why they call that event the American, because of where it started many, many years ago. There's also a prize, of course, small monetary prize for the first rider over the line. A little flick of the arm there, trying to tempt through Urtasun. But Urtasun's not having any of it, so they've left Morkov on the front here, knowing he's probably the fastest sprinter. At the back here, also a good sprinter, is Johan Gien. He is in the green jersey, and he's going to have a go for it, I think.
Well, you can see this is almost a cat-mouse
tactics. There he goes.
Yeah, good call on that one, Phil. He's made the first move, but watch for the reaction coming from Morkov. But look at the man coming out here, because Ede has jumped out of the pack.
Well, I've never seen Ede race before. This is his first Tour de France. He may have gone just a little bit early. Jean is trying, but Urtasun is showing he can sprint. He's beaten, though, by Johan Gien, so Europcar get the 20 points. And the crowd enjoying a preview of the sprint, which will come down the road at Serang, although I doubt it'll be amongst these 6 riders.
I have to say, my man, my tip there, Michael Morkov, did very well. He got 6 out of 6.
Well, he's clearly decided to concentrate on taking the early lead in the King of the Mountains. I can't blame him for that. A polka dot jersey awaits the leader tonight. Change of teams at the front. The Lotto Belisol team have come to the front, which means that Andre Greipel The big sprinter is interested. The world champion Mark Cavendish in the white jersey, centre off to the right, just bobbing in out. There he is, just tucked into the right. Well, there's your answer, Paul. He's going to have a go.
Well, they're all up there, but there's still a lot of control going there from the riders from Lotto. They'll be looking after Andre Greipel. He's sitting in the middle there, waiting for the moment to move. Mark Renshaw is not too far off there, because Matty Goss is the man who's going to try and come up there from Orica Green Edge.
A little bit of a banging of shoulders there too, as Matty Goss tries to get through, but in the fourth wheel there, watch out, because I think that Mark Cavendish is interested possibly in testing his sprint's finish here.
Well, that's Andre Greipel in the black and white jersey at the front there, but still sitting, still a long way to go. That's Matty Goss in the green and white jersey in about fourth position there. Right behind him, Mark Renshaw in the orange jersey. Then Cavendish with the yellow helmet. Well, he might have a little go.
Boysenhagen's behind Cavendish. Cavendish is moving up slightly. He always times his effort very late. That's where he's got the advantage. This incredible fast kick as he comes in sight of the line. Greipel is the man they've set it up for as he goes for the line now. But here comes Cavendish. Is this a rehearsal for the finish today as Mark Cavendish goes? And on the line is arch rival Greipel. Gets it, and Cavendish has to play second fiddle. Remember that Matt Goss may have got it on the line there, not Greipel. Matt Goss, the Orica Green Edge. Well, that is a reversal of the Olympic pre-road race rehearsal last year when it was Cavendish who beat Goss.
Well, that's Greipel on the left-hand side of the road. They're trying to fight his way up, but it's Matty Goss on the right-hand side who eases up and looks back at Mark Cavendish there. The Australian gets the first little victory there. Mark Renshaw also up there in third place. The big sprinters all coming to the fore.
Well, these are the 6 riders now, just 3/10 of a mile from the summit. Mikhail Morkov, number 175. If he wins, will be the first-time leader of the King of the Mountains in this year's Tour de France. For him, first-time leader ever, because it's his first Tour de France. And as an ex-track rider, Paul, it's like asking a 100-meter runner to go out and win the New York Marathon.
It certainly is, but he's attentive. He's got himself in, I think he's got himself in the ideal position. He knows the man that he has to beat is the man in the orange jersey, Pablo Urtasun. He's sitting right on his wheel. He's waiting for that twitch, the start of the acceleration. And as soon as he senses that acceleration, he will try and go over the top of him immediately.
Now, if, by the way, this Urtasun wins this, that means we'll have 2 leaders on 2 points. And I don't think they'll be in contention for the last climb of the day because it's the finish and the peloton should be here. Then it goes on count back as to who wins. They'll have won 2 each. Then it goes to the overall situation, which would swing it possibly to the Dane. Now they're off, and it's Urtasun who's got a good jump on the Dane here as they both disappeared out of sight. Our camera's not allowed to pass the other riders. So tune in tomorrow, we'll tell you who won the race because they've gone right round the corner into the distance. I'm hoping that somebody will tell us who won.
Well, the way he was positioned there, I have to have a guess that it was Michael Morkov. He was right on the shoulder of Urtasun all the time. They've gone hollowing up the road there, so we'll have to wait for the official race referees.
Nothing we could do about that because the cameras are not allowed to pass the rest of the breakaway in a sprint finish like that. But the man in the far distance is Morkov. He is the track rider and the sprinter, and Urtasun, I think, will have gone too soon. But we'll have to wait for the announcement on the race radio as to who got that. It looks to me like it's Morkov.
Yeah, I think it will be Morkov. He was in an ideal position. He's got the sprint much better than I think. Oh, he knows he's got it. Well, there's confirmation there, Phil. He knows he's got it.
That's amazing.
And he knows he's going to have a leader's jersey at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice gesture too from Urtasun. Urtasun himself is riding his second Tour de France. This man's in his first. And on his first road race day, he has got himself a leader's jersey on the podium tonight. He was trained by Heiko Salzwiedel, a former East German, who now trains the Russians, but he trained the Danish team to that silver medal in Beijing, which Morkov was part of in 2008. There's confirmation. 3 points, Paul, he got now. He can't be beaten on the day. He's polka dot tomorrow. Yep,
and that will be a proud moment for him. And Heiko Salzwiedel, you were talking about there, originally a great coach from the Australian team before he moved across to train Great Britain on the track, and then moved across to train the Danes.
And everywhere he goes, the other countries wish they kept him because he's always produced that. Until he got the silver medal last year for the Danes, there was no medals for Denmark on the track at the Olympic Games. And now he's doing the same, it appears, for the Russian boys on the track as well. So watch out in London, that's all I can say.
Yep, I tell you what, the track racing in London will be superb. In fact, the Olympic Games I'm looking forward to very much. Although it comes pretty soon off the back of the end of the Tour de France, straight onto the train and across to London on Monday morning.
But at least we haven't got to worry about riding. That's all that matters to us, Paul. Well, the nonchalant riding style, belying how fast these boys are riding now by Cloden on the front. 57 kilometres to go. The gap is at 2:19. They are slowly nibbling away at the breakaway as they want to do it. They don't want to bring them back too quickly.
Well, again, it's Popovic-Voigt. It's the dynamic duo as we see the little bit of a queue and traffic jam at the back end of the pack. So talking to one or two of the teams before the start, one of the big new sprinters on the block is a rider called Marcel Kittel from Team Argos Shimano, and his team manager at the start, Christian Giberto, he said he didn't think this was the kind of climb for Kittel. In fact, they weren't even going to try and participate, as they felt that the climb was just a little bit too tough for their sprinter, and they would concentrate on some of the flatter finishes in the first part. There's a little bit of a problem here. Now this is Genet, and he was in that leading group, and he's just changed his bike, so obviously got a mechanical problem there. A quick change though, didn't panic at all. You see there's no number on that bike, so it was a spare bike which was on top of the car, and I don't think he'll have too much difficulty getting himself back into the main field. Although most of these bikes nowadays are almost identical, you always have a preference to one specific bicycle, so when you get to change a bike during the course of a race like this, it can put you off a fraction. This is Popovic doing the job of work at the front in the dark sunglasses. Behind him it's Jens Voigt. Just behind him it's Chris Horner coming forward. This team, I think, will be very relieved to have some success. They certainly haven't had the success they would have expected in the early part of the season, because we were dubbing them, Phil, as a super team after the joining of two great big teams, Leopard Trek joining with Radio Shack Nissan. Then all of a sudden we thought this was going to be the all-dominating team, and they really haven't dominated in the early part of the season.
No, well, they lost Fabien Cancellara with that crash in the Tour of Flanders on April the 1st. That was their main man. He was really on form. He dominated the classics last year. Looked like doing it this year. Once they lost him, they lost direction for a little while, but it looks as though this time the Tour's been launched to a fine start for them with Cancellara in yellow. The kilometres tick off. 55 approaching now. The gap at 2¼ minutes is again being pegged. They don't want to rush it down. It's still the undulations will continue, even though there are no more prizes for the King of the Mountains today. Radio Shack keeping control.
If Peter Sagan has looked like a coiled spring ahead of his first ever Tour de France, that's because, frankly, he has been. Aside from the GC clamour of Evans and Wiggins, and away from the soap opera of the world champion Mark Cavendish, it's the serious-minded Slovakian who's been the talk of the Tour.
He win everywhere, and it's young but really strong in the head, in the legs, and I think in his first Tour de France, it's the big start for him for a magic career.
The talent's long been visible. Even as a teenager, the sponsors were queuing up to associate themselves with their edgy and, in this case, urban young pretender. Since then, of course, it's fair to say he's grown up quickly.
He's younger than me, that's true. And yeah, I think when you look to his last results, he's definitely another sprinter where you have to look to and where you have to be careful. And yeah, we are totally aware of the situation.
This may prove to be the year of his fulfillment. Still astonishingly only 22, Sagan has won 5 stages of the Tour of California, 4 of the Tour de Suisse, and has placed highly in a clutch of one-day classics across a variety of terrains. The feeling is his time has come.
It's first Tour de France for me, and I want to do good, and I don't know, I don't feel stress.
But his opponents might. It's not just the raw power he carries to the line in a bunch sprint which suggests that greatness is within his grasp. It's the range of his options. He can time trial, even if yesterday's effort saw him overcook and then recover. But like a fast-twitch Bosenhagen, his potential is boundless. He climbs in a Gilbert kind of way, he descends like a bullet, and he has aggression in his DNA.
He can climb phenomenal, he can sprint as fast as anyone. He's going to be a tough guy to beat, that's for sure, and I think he's a real competitor to take home the green jersey.
In cycling, they have a name for riders like that.
Slovakia Cannibal. Hey, Cannibal.
The Cannibal. He carries the same nickname as Eddie Merckx himself, although his teammates don't stop there in their eulogising.
Vabbè, hai detto tutto, no? Si sa che Peter è un fenomeno, io lo descrivo un Beethoven, no? Nel senso uno che nasce veramente ogni tanti anni.
The 2012 Tour might not have to wait too long to see the best of Sagan. In fact, this uphill kick to the finish line of Stage 1 might just prove the perfect springboard.
Oh, there's been a crash on the road here. 67 seconds the gap, and it's a Rabobank round down on the right. This is at the back of the peloton.
So having a quick look, there's a number of riders gone down there as well from Movistar.
There was a Sky rider there who has also gone down, who has got up and started to ride away. There's a Movistar rider down there as well, and that is Vladimir Karpits. Well, we're looking at the remnants of a crash which has just happened here. Sky rider was definitely involved. He's now kicking back in. It's not Wiggins and it is not Boysenhagen who has gone clear, and it looks okay. Just a little bit of a shunt at the back. It has left one rider from Rabobank down at the moment. We'll catch up on him when we can. This is Michael Rogers, the Aussie rider. That's a little bit more serious to catch Michael off the back because he's got a hard chase now.
Well, he's pretty much got ripped up as well. You can see his radios are popping out of his jersey there, and he went down very hard indeed. And Michael Rogers has got great form. He just recently finished second in the Criterium de Dauphiné. But because of that crash, you know, when a crash happens, Phil, you can hear the scream and the screech of metal behind you. It makes everybody very, very nervous indeed. And you can see that by the way that everyone's accelerating left and right in this peloton to get to the front because they know that's the safest place to be.
Yes, and this is now the most hazardous. Oh, dear me, and the Euskadi rider just about squeezed in there as they came into the peloton at the back. As the spectators seeing the peloton being kept to one side of the highway, it must mean there's a turn coming up, I would think. These are the 6 leaders and still clear of the field and safely away from those shunts. Not too sure who the Rabobank rider was who crashed. Rogers certainly did. And they're saying that it was Luis Leon Sanchez, Paul, who was involved in that fall.
Well, there you can see there is the relationship. You can see all the cars queuing up behind that leading group of 6 riders. There's another crash gone down now, Phil.
My goodness.
Everyone's getting very nervous because we're getting that little bit closer to the finish. These crashes happen because it's the first day. Guys are taking risks. They're trying to get up to the front. Then all of a sudden, boom, you go down. And that's fairly much halfway down the main field, that crash.
It's not even, it's almost at the front. The touch of wheels here as they go down right there. But yeah, it's about a third down the field. A massive stoppage. Fortunately, it was reasonably slow motion, even though we are showing it in slow motion as well. And they're just pulling the bikes out of the pack here. But again, it's riders falling. And you've got to be very, very careful now.
As Maxime Montfort from Radio Shack who went down there on the right-hand side. He's just standing calmly at the side of the road. He knows that pretty much his stage is finished here this side. But look at this. Look at the pace now. The nervousness of all of these riders battling to stay at the front and out of danger.
Now, this is like a Belgian cycle race now, because when you race in Belgium, because of narrow roads, the approaches to finishing climbs, the strong men get to the front and they ride. And if you can't break in, you tend to fall off. This is when we've gone back here. This is the luckless Luis Leon Sanchez, for the second year, the national time trial champion of Spain. He's been left in a wake today. We saw him win before. It looks like there might be that cameraman, you know, was a little bit too close here, because they all started dodging wheels. He should not have been there.
Well, I had noticed Peter Sagan and his teammates had managed to avoid most of that. He's in about 15th to 20th position. The lime green jerseys, Liquigas Cannondale, they are looking after the Slovakian champion, who many people believe has got the power and the acceleration to get out of the gap. There's the official 20-kilometre to go sign. That's 12 miles of racing, but these guys now, Phil, have got less than 30 seconds advantage, and still they continue.
We are looking across the fields here at a splintered peloton caused by 2 falls all of a sudden. And the peloton at the front riding as fast as they can now to stop everybody rejoining as they race towards Serein and the finishing line uphill. We are 10 miles from the start of the climb, or 16 kilometres.
Anyway, you can see now as we come to the racing part of the course here, we're in the racing time when nobody's going to sit up and wait for anybody who's got fallen off the back for the moment. This is too important for these guys now. As you can see, Team Sky have got complete control at the front end of the pack.
A huge field gradually coming together as these riders who are caught out are trying desperately to regroup here. You can see by the trees on the right, this wind is blowing now, and every time they change direction, it hits them from a different direction, and this makes it very difficult. Marcus Burkhardt of BMC is now driving on the front.
Well, not far away from the front is Cadel Evans. Whoops, watch a little bump in the road there, Marcus Burkhardt, because if you go down in first position, you'll take out about 30 men. Cadel Evans, and watch this, there was a bottle, in fact, and he just manages to correct it. You've got to be on the ball when you're a professional cyclist and you see something like that in the road. He looks back to make sure Cadel Evans is okay. Evans is in the top 10. I can see his red and black jersey there. He's being looked after by George Hincapie. The green jersey of Bradley Wiggins is never very far away. But where is the yellow jersey of Fabian Cancellara? I haven't seen him for a while.
I noticed that Bradley Wiggins at the front of that peloton. You can pick him out in the green jersey and the yellow helmet very easily. He is in a terrific position just now. And surely Wiggo isn't going to have a go up this finishing climb today.
Well, somebody said that to me before the start this morning, and I didn't believe it. But don't forget, on the opening day of the Tour of Romandy, he came out and won himself a bunch sprint because he just wanted to make a statement. And he has said with less days racing in his legs than on previous occasions, he likes to come to every race that he participates in and race it. So why not?
Well, these are the 6 men. Leading them on is Maxime Bouet at the moment, and they are still clear, albeit only by 17 seconds.
A quarter of a minute as they start to get into the outskirts of Liège. And there we have got the River Meuse. We saw it this morning, but that was around about 5 hours ago when the riders moved away from Liège as they cross over the Meuse, or the Maas as it's called, if you cross over the border into Holland, only 25 miles away from here. So now it's right on the 15-second mark. There are the 6 leaders. They've cleaned the gap behind them. The red car is a car of the race referee. He's been pulled out of the gap.
15 kilometres to go. We cross the River Meuse now, and the field know once they cross this river, they're basically heading up towards the finish in Serang.
Yesterday's race was all about 6 kilometres, then today's is all about 3. The final 3. Yes, cobbles, climbs and corners. The arrival in Serang has got them all. Once again, I have to hand it to the course designers who've managed to create a route that keeps us guessing all of the way to the line. The gradients, they're steep enough to bring in the classic specialists, but perhaps not quite long enough to see the sprinters completely resigned to giving up their chance at a win. With just 2.5 kilometres to go, and after a few lefts and rights, the road ramps up enough to string out the field. The gradient increases even more, and then they sprinkle in some cobbles. And I think it's at this point we might see some fractures appear that could catch out the unwary GC rider. With just over 1 kilometre to go to the line, there's a false flat. There's a strong crosswind from the right as well. This presents an opportunity for someone to attack and steal a few metres before the road kicks back up for the final 400. So, who could win today? Well, a whole host of people, but perhaps the favourites, Peter Sagan and a newly resurgent Philippe Gilbert, is certainly my favourite. And although I know it's a long shot, I wouldn't completely rule out a newly slimmed down Mark Cavendish.
We are looking for the 10 kilometres to go banner now. Those 6 riders have been in the lead for 188 of the 198 kilometres, and we have an attack as we go under 10 kilometres to go. It is Nicolas Ede of Cofidis trying to lead this breakaway to the line. Don't look over your shoulder because they are right there, and it is the team of Orica Green Edge who are chasing them down.
Well, they're trying to set this up. They obviously believe in Matthew Goss here this afternoon. That's why you've got guys like Stuart O'Grady making this organisation. We've got the racer computer, Phil, telling us the gap now is down to 0 seconds. Well, I think I'd agree with that on this occasion.
There's a little gap. Give them 1 second at the moment, but there they are, and there is the peloton. What a breakaway this has been. 189 kilometres in front as Maxime Bouet says, you're not catching me, not after all this effort, I'm going to go again.
Well, I'm not sure that was a very clever move because he's just prolonging the agony. He will get caught before the end now, because when you see the organisation in a bunch like this, you know it's all over bar the shouting. He's just trying to keep his face on television a little bit longer for his family. And his family actually, his family-in-law actually hail from Marseille in the southern part of France, and I'm sure as cycling enthusiasts, they'll be all over this on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, he's a long way from home just now as he keeps up the resistance to take it through 9 kilometres to go. The Lotto Belisol team are the team which is closing it all down, and they are driving. They have a sprinter here in Andre Greipel. I'm not sure that Andre can get up this hill, though.
Well, we'll have to find out. We will see at the end of the day. In the second row there, you've still got Orica Green Edge, nice and organised. Stuart O'Grady, the second rider in that jersey. The jersey's very, very complicated. These are the riders from that breakaway early on. They're getting spat out of the back with absolutely no mercy at all.
There is Cadel Evans. The field is now inside 5 miles from the finish. The breakaway is caught. We are all together, and it's now eyes down for the climb up to the finish in Serang.
Look at the speed these guys are going now. We're looking, Phil, now at speeds approaching 40 miles an hour on the flat. It's Lotto Belisol on the front. So these men are trying to sort this. Well, they can't be sorting it out for this man, because all of a sudden we've got Andre Greipel is doing the lead now. Now, who is he doing the lead out for? Is it Jürgen van der Broek? Because Greipel is going potty.
It might be for Jürgen Roelants, the rider who crashed in the Santos Tour Down Under. Took a long time to recover, but he is now back on form, and it could be a good finish for him, or maybe even for Jürgen van der Broek. But anyway, it's not for Andre Greipel, that's for sure, as we keep them on the right route here, heading towards the climb in Serang. They are really flying now, and for the riders at the back of the race now, there's no way they can come up into the front half of the peloton.
Inside of 6 kilometres to go, 4 miles to go. Now we come into the complicated part of this running towards the finish line, because there's a number of very, very difficult corners these riders will have to negotiate. If you touch your brakes, you'll disappear from the front end of this peloton this afternoon, and people like Fabian Cancellara do not want to do that.
And this is why now we know the field has been going so fast, because the problem here for Alexander Vinokurov, and that is not, he's got a flat back tyre, and that'll mean he'll drift home today. He's not going to catch up with these riders. It looks to me as though Adam Hansen has got himself up at the front in the Lotto team at the moment, as they get onto these little slopes which will come thick and fast.
There's a little move there. That's Cadel Evans with, again, George Hincapie moving up around the outside. He's up to the wheel of Fabian Cancellara. He wants to stay at the front end of the pack here this afternoon.
Now just look at the way that Cadel Evans is being steered right to the front here with a great show of strength as Cadel moves up there, and Sagan has spotted Cadel Evans go through and has jumped onto his slipstream.
So thank you very much. I'll have a free ride to the front end of the pack here this afternoon, but still Lotto Belisol in control at the front end of the peloton. Stuart O'Grady looking into our camera lens there, thinking about Matthew Goss here this afternoon. We're up to the final climb of the day, the Côte de Serein. 2.4 kilometres. It starts to get very, very grippy here. The bottom part of the climb is the steepest part, but it goes all the way up to the finish line.
Well, Cadel Evans has spotted that Bradley Wiggins is interested in the win today. He can't afford to lose any time to him on a finishing climb like this. He's moving up to the front. Peter Sagan, he's looking for the victory at the moment, and they are all repositioning, and Edward Boysenhagen also there. We're not talking about any real sprinters here apart from Sagan. It looks like it's going to be a different type of finish.
The man on the front is Stuart O'Grady, 16th participation in the Tour de France. Job done, swinging off. He leaves it up to the rest of the boys here this afternoon. This is Albacini now, the Swiss rider on Orica Green Edge. They're trying to sort it all out. In third position in that line is Matthew Goss. Behind him, another Australian in the red and black jersey. It's Cadel Evans. Is he going to look for the win?
Well, this is the climb now. We have started. It's all uphill to the finish now, and he who gets it right wins the day. The white jersey below us there, 2 white jerseys. One is Peter Sagan, the champion of Slovakia, followed by Edward Boysenhagen, the new champion of Norway. And still now and Cadel Evans has got himself into third place.
Well, he's sitting there nice and comfortable. The cobblestones at the bottom, very, very difficult. You lose your impetus, you lose all kinds of momentum now as Cadel Evans takes over. Mark Cavendish is not going to win.
There's an attack, and that's Omega Quickstep who's launching. It looks like Chavanel. Sylvain Chavanel, third yesterday in the prologue. That was his best ever prologue in a Tour de France. Is now stomping away. A Frenchman on a Belgium team trying to spoil it for the Belgians today. The legs are locking up, I think, Paul. It's a long, long way to the summit.
It's nice to be able to try and do it, but it's an awful long way to go up to the finish line. Even Peter Sagan here is struggling to get across the gap, looking over his shoulder for a little bit of help. They're stretching it out, though, because Chavanel will not give up.
There's an Orica Green Edge rider there. It's not Michael Albacini, but I'm not too sure who it is. He's come up onto the back wheel here. As he comes up onto the back wheel, we've now seeing, though, closing in. Jürgen van der Broek is getting up there as well for Lotto. Cancellara's holding position. Wiggins in the green is on the left. He's just taken the back wheel of Peter Sagan. Evans is in front of them both.
Well, they're all battling to stay in contact with the front end of the main field here this afternoon, but Cancellara's got the form because he's making a nasty little move here, but he's covered by Peter Sagan.
Well, I can tell you, privileged information, but the team manager, Dirk de Mol of Fabian Cancellara, has just told him in his ear that it's no one stronger than you, and he's made him attack.
Well, we're coming to the flatter part of the climb now at 1.3 kilometres to go. You know, Phil, it cast my mind back to Compiègne when he did exactly the same thing.
Indeed.
Had the yellow jersey on his shoulders and said, right, I'm off, mate, I'm out of this pack. There are not many men in the world can do this, but Fabian Cancellara could. The flick of the wrist says to Peter Sagan, come on, mate, give us a hand. Edward Bosenhagen is coming across there as well. He's looking to try and get himself a little bit of a stretch of an advantage in the best young riders competition.
Huge effort, but in Compiègne, of course, that was a flat finish. This is uphill, and it's still got a kilometre to go of climbing. This is a huge effort by the yellow jersey to steal seconds. He wants Sagan to come on through and do some work. Sagan won't come through. The hesitation will let Bosenhagen onto the back of the two of them.
That's Bosenhagen with the yellow helmet scrambling across this gap. Desperate moments, but they're opening up the gap. Fabian Cancellara's got that engine in his bike again, like he had a couple of years ago when they accused him of having a motor on his machine. So leaving it all now up to Cadel Evans to defend on the front in the red and black.
Cadel Evans, and on his back wheel is the Belgian who made a move and it failed, Jurgen van den Broek. The field are massing at the back. Now Cancellara assessing. He's in a situation here now because Peter Sagan doesn't want to go round him. He wants to win the stage on his first Tour de France. And Cancellara says, well, I'm racing the time. He goes again. And Bosenhagen is the man in the perfect seat.
Well, I don't know. Fabian Cancellara knows it's all about time for him. If he can get another 5 or 10 seconds here this afternoon, he can hold this yellow jersey all the way down to the mountains. He'd like to win the stage if he could, but he's got two very, very fast sprinters on his wheel. He now has to race for time only, not even think about the stage victory.
Well, they can't hesitate much longer. Bosenhagen is under stress here. He's just about holding on. But the sprint is open by Fabian Cancellara as the attack comes from behind with Gilbert. And now it is Sagan going for the victory. Can Bosenhagen answer it? This is the first Tour de France for Peter Sagan. And Sagan is coming clear to get his first stage win at the first attempt. That is unbelievable. And win number 14 of the season for him. But having said Sagan as the winner, the man who scored most is Cancellara.
Cancellara is a man when it comes to a move like that. That was a very, very courageous move that he made, a strong move. And, you know, if those guys had participated with him in a little bit of the pacemaking, they might have opened up a huge gap. And I have a funny feeling, Phil, that Philippe Gilbert sneaked in for a 4th or 5th place finish there.
Yes, 4th place for Gilbert in the end, behind Sagan, Cancellara and Bosenhagen. Bauke Mollema was 5th, ahead of Alejandro Valverde. Robert Hazing showed he's feeling strong, he was 7th, and the same goes for Dan Martin, who was 8th. The bunch got the same time in the end, just getting onto the back of the leading trio at the line. In there were Bradley Wiggins, Cadel Evans and the rest of the overall contenders, with the exception of Chris Froome, who had the terrible luck to puncture with 5 kilometres to go just as the pace was winding up and lost 1 minute and 25 seconds. Mark Cavendish was in a group 2 minutes 7 seconds down, along with some of the other sprinters, so that answers the question about whether this might have been a finish for him. There were still questions for Peter Sagan, though, and one in particular.
What was the celebration? Was it a chicken, a bird? What was that?
No, because before the Tour de France I was in home and I spoke with my friends on the home. What I do another one victory when I do. I don't know. You do this for the smile. I don't know.
Well, it looks good. Maybe another one tomorrow, huh?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. Peter Sagan on the podium on the first road stage of his first Tour de France, and it's a sight that I suspect is going to become a familiar one. To give any current rider Eddie Merckx' nickname feels like sacrilege, but the Cannibal Mark I seems perfectly at ease with the comparison.
Does he remind you of you a little?
Absolutely, yeah. I saw him all winning in Qatar, Oman, and it was very impressive.
Now, Fabian Cancellara's second place was enough for him to hold on to the green as well as the yellow jersey by 6 points from Sagan. Sagan will be wearing it by default tomorrow, taking over from Bradley Wiggins, who put in a hard day's work in it today. This is the jersey Fabian was riding in defence of, though, and being jumped for the stage win notwithstanding, he defended it brilliantly.
Still a great performance. It gives me a lot of confidence. Everything coming up now, and big thanks to the team also. I think that's why also this attack was somewhere in my head, in my mind, when I saw 24 hours ago this finale, to really attacking for making the best defense, because otherwise staying in the bunch and finishing again in yellow is nice, but like this is even nicer.
So there's the general classification. Cancellara still leads by 7 seconds from Wiggins. Some of the high prologue finishers drop out of the top 8, which means Denis Menchov moves up to 6th and Cadel Evans to 8th. Vincenzo Nibali is now 9th, 1 place ahead of Ryder Heyerdahl. Robert Geesink and Jurgen van den Broek, who both rode strongly today, are 29th and 31st. The big loser, through no fault of his own, is Chris Froome, now 1 minute and 41 down in 84th place. So a day full of storylines. Chris, which one do you want to pick?
Well, we've got about 30 Ks to go, I think, to be honest, because it absolutely kicked off from there. It was a deceptive day. I think it looked calm, but it wasn't. There was crosswinds all day and everybody was waiting, and at that moment it kicked off. Sky looked like they were doing well. They looked like they were all together, and then suddenly Bradley was on his own, which really surprised me. BMC, they too got themselves in a nice line at the front, and then they disappeared. So it really was chaos, and each individual had to fight really hard to get their position there. Luckily, Bradley got away with it. Cadel, though, he was just looking for a move all the time, and he wasn't anywhere. And then I think it was George Henkep, he brought him right up the outside with 3 Ks to go, planted him at the bottom of the climb, and he was just looking to get an opportunity to make some time, but it just wasn't there for him.
Yeah, and he didn't gain any seconds over Brad in the end. They finished on the same time in the bunch, but that was a statement of intent that he will try and nick them wherever he can.
No one had an easy day there. I mean, everybody had to work really hard, but he was just vigilant, watching, and I think we're going to see that again and again, not just on climbs, on descents, on tricky little finishes like that. We've got some more of those in a couple of days as well. So, yeah, he's going to take everything he can get.
Yeah, another tricky uphill finish in a couple of days. Tomorrow, though, we're on the flat. We'll take a look ahead to Stage 2 in just a moment, right after the competition. Here's your chance to win a weekend for 2 in Paris to watch the finale of the 2012 Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées. The prize includes travel, 2-night stay in a 4-star hotel and £500 spending money. Plus, courtesy of Halfords, the lucky winner will also be riding away with a pair of brand new Carrera bikes, a men's lightweight alloy frame Vengeance model and a women's Crossfire 2 with front suspension. For your chance to win, just call 0904 959 6060. Calls cost no more than £1.03 from BT landlines. Other networks may be higher and mobiles considerably more. Or text the word Paris to 88444. Texts cost £1 plus 1 standard network rate message. You can also enter free at itv.com. Entrants must be 18 or over. Entries made after lines close at 4 p.m. on Monday the 9th of July will not be counted, but may still be charged. Now there's tomorrow's route, 3 days in, sprint stage number 1. 207 kilometres from Vizé to Tournai, right on the French border, ready for the race to hit home roads on stage 3. There is one 4th category climb up to the Citadel at Namur, and a little over 50 kilometres from the finish comes the day's intermediate sprint, with 20 points available to the first man through. That may well go to a member of a breakaway, but the same won't be true at the finish, where we should see the first big bunch sprint of this year's tour. We'll have stage 2 for you live from 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and we're back at the usual time of 7 o'clock in the evening with the highlights. Now, the first big bunch sprint of this year's tour means Mark Cavendish's first chance for a stage win, although traditionally Mark finds a way not to take his first opportunity. For some reason he prefers to wait until stage 5 to start his winning streaks. Nonetheless, he'll be up at the front tomorrow, battling against various members of his former lead-out train, and don't rule out another victory salute from the growing Peter Sagan repertoire.
We can have a lot of fun. I'm a man.